Today on Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton, toxic people in your life. A new study says dealing with difficult personalities might actually make you age faster. We're breaking down how your social circle could be impacting your health and causing some of those gray hairs. And got headaches that won't quit? Well, before you reach for another pill, we'll show you what can really be causing the pain and how to finally get relief. And stress is not just in your head. One doctor explains how it can quietly trigger high blood pressure, migraines, and even digestive problems. Plus dementia and Alzheimer's. We're breaking down the difference and helping families care for loved ones navigating these challenging conditions. The answers start right now on Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. Now, first up, a new study says dealing with difficult people might actually age you faster. The study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences revealed that people who have hasslers in their life have a higher biological age than their chronological age. In fact, the study shows that each additional hassler is associated with 1.5% of faster biological aging, which is 9 months faster than the chronological aging. And joining us now is licensed marriage and family therapist Crystal Guillory, who is managing partner for Cure for Couples. Thank you for joining us, Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we want to talk about this. Let's manage the aging process by managing the difficult people in our lives, right? So how does research define hasslers? And are they really that big of a deal for our overall physical health?
Well, I think the research that you're referring to defines hasslers as difficult people who cause challenge in your life. They, in my view, are people who press your boundaries and cause stress in your life. And so then that is, the study is saying, reduces or decreases your biological age. Or increases your biological age, sorry.
And you say people may have to look in the mirror when dealing with difficult people. Why is that?
Yeah, because a lot of times I think people are getting something. They're getting something positive from dealing with people even when they don't want to. And I think people need to take a look at that. And so it's, am I, fulfilling some kind of obligation that I feel good about feeling? Do I feel like if I don't, then who will? What is it that you're getting? And so you have to take a look at yourself in order to figure that out.
And how do you know if you're actually inviting a difficult person into your life? You hear people say, hey, I've had many different relationships, but you look at their relationships and it's like, but you're kind of dating the same person, although they were different people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would call that inviting people in. I think maybe that's just not knowing who you are allowing in your space. And sometimes it's just, we don't know. We just don't know. We haven't spent the time with self long enough. We haven't looked in the mirror to see, what is it that I want? What is it that I'm needing? And why am I attracted to the same thing over and over again that provides me with challenge?
And, relationships with intimate relationship is one thing, but there are some people who say, I can't completely avoid difficult individuals because they're my family members or they're my coworkers. What healthy boundary can be put into place to protect that mental health if you can't necessarily get from around that person?
Yeah. People, there's a trend, everybody's talking about boundaries and I have to protect my peace and all of that. And I think people have a misguided view of what boundaries actually are. Boundaries are for the person who is setting them. So if I'm using myself as an example, it is, what parameters am I setting for how far will I go? Well, how much do I feel comfortable with? How much am I going to invest in this? And so I can set that. And then as long as I hold that, and I don't go beyond my boundaries, then I can feel safe with what I have done.
Mm.
The challenge is people think that the boundaries are for other people, but really those are rules and expectations. And you can ask that of other people, but you don't have any control over them. You only have control over yourself.
Mm.
So you have to protect your own boundaries.
Well, and would you consider ghosting a boundary? There's a trend of ghosting people and leaving them on, on
Mhm.
red when they send a text. Is that the right thing to do, or why is it not?
I don't know if it's the right thing to do necessarily. I think if a person is reaching out to you who is a person who you don't want to talk to, then I think that's an opportunity for you to know that maybe you're either not maintaining your boundaries with this person, or this person isn't maintaining the expectations that you have set for them. And then that's something you need to take a look at. I don't know if ghosting is necessarily a good thing. I think it's avoidance, and avoidance isn't always good in relationships. So potentially, if this person is someone like a family member who you're going to continue to see, then that potentially can cause more conflict. When you
Mhm.
could just say, I am not interested in talking right now, or I don't have time right now, or my capacity just isn't there.
Mm. Capacity. And speaking of ghosting, at that point, you probably are completely bankrupt as far as your capacity. So, what are some of the early warning signs that people should look out for to say, hey, this relationship may be heading towards toxicity if it isn't already a toxic situation?
Well, I think what's most important is people need to spend time with themselves.
Mm.
Evaluate, how do I feel with this person? Does this person make my nervous system rattle? Because
Mm.
that feels like, you know what, I shouldn't be with this person. Maybe there is some unsafety that I'm experiencing when I'm with this person. But quite possibly, it could be that they are triggering a previous experience with someone else. And you can't find that out if you don't spend time with yourself and evaluate, how do you feel? Do I feel warm and cozy and safe? Then that's probably a person you want to spend more time with.
Hmm. Hmm. And you say, we trust our senses, right?
Mhm.
You've been quoted as saying our eyes see out and
Mm.
not within. Can you explain what that means? Is that the third eye that you're talking about?
No, actually, our eyes anatomically
Hmm.
face out.
Right.
It's easier to see someone else's flaws and challenges than it is to see your own. So if you don't spend any time with yourself evaluating, how was I in this situation? How did I act like I wanted to act? Am I being the person who I want to be? Then you won't see yourself because our eyes face out. And what I know is you said this and you had the head bob and you did all of these other things, and I was just responding to you. And so then you're not taking any accountability for your own actions, for what your contribution to the situation is.
Right. And oftentimes we kind of fluff this away, right? Like, oh, this is just my emotions, or that's just how they feel about things. But
Yeah.
we know that emotional health can translate to physical health. What are some of the signs and symptoms that it is actually causing some physical health kind of decomposition and increasing the aging process?
Oh, yeah. I would think signs would be fatigue that is unexplained. I would imagine that feeling dysregulated, like I don't know why I feel this way, like I'm angry and I don't know why. I would imagine that a person who is in chronically in situations with difficult people, that they are not feeling themselves. They may want to withdraw when normally they want to engage. It might look and feel a whole lot like depression, like,
Mm.
with, low mood and sleeplessness and not being able to have clear thinking, and or high anxiety as well, like, constantly thinking and overthinking in different situations, because how do I do the thing and not get the same result? So trying to figure out how I can do it differently. Um, it would be extraordinarily uncomfortable.
Right. And if we have a listener right now that says, hey, I feel like I'm having some of those symptoms, and they have a hassler in their life, Are there
Mhm.
any practical, like 3 practical tips that you can give to them to say, this is how you can create and start to establish some of those healthy boundaries?
Well, first I would say spend time with yourself and really think about what is it that I'm wanting here? What are the positives that I could get out of the situation and what are the challenges of the situation and how can I navigate them? So in doing that, you're then creating a plan. So you spend time with yourself and you create a plan. And then next, I would evaluate, what is my capacity? What
Mhm.
do I have enough energy to actually do? And, or is it somebody that I need to take some time away from? And I don't mean in the way of like cutting them off, but really taking a break.
Mhm.
Like, can I take a break? And, maybe it's a week's time so I can restore and then I can come back fresher.
Hmm. You know what? Those are some very tangible things that I think we can all take. Somebody might need to take a boundary step from me. I don't know. But Crystal, thank you for showing us that setting boundaries isn't about just pushing people away. It's about
Mhm.
protecting ourselves because, again, mental health is actual physical health. So where can people find you online if they want to kind of get a step-by-step of how to approach this?
So you can find me at curaforcouples.com
Cure
and also at curaforcouples.com on Instagram.
Cure for Couples. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And coming up next, from difficult people now to stress and tension headaches, a hot button topic because it affects everyone. We're going to help you manage it. Stay with us.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
Why does it feel like we're going backward? Voting rights under attack, schools stripped of funding, Black history erased. This is the Trump MAGA agenda. They want to take us back. They are redrawing congressional lines in states across the country, deciding who gets power and who gets silenced. We see what this is, a power grab. Virginians won't be fooled. Show up, vote, take back our power. It's a temporary measure that gives the people, not politicians, the final say. Vote yes by April 21st.
Most people don't realize how much stress affects their everyday life. In fact, the average African American is experiencing headaches 2 to 3 times per week, and we consider this normal. Well, joining me now is Dr. Ronnie Bolar, owner of Vital Life Chiropractic. Good to have you back with us.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah. Now, how exactly does stress translate into physical pain like headaches? Is it muscle tension, nerve irritation, or something actually happening within our nervous system?
It's actually a combination of all of those things. So that's a great question. What's happening when our bodies get stressed is we are actually experiencing what we call fight or flight syndrome. And fight or flight simply happens when your body goes into this extremely stressed mode where the digestive system decreases in its activity, the muscles tense up and tighten. And what ends up happening is that as the muscles tense and tighten, if that goes on for an extended period of time, that can actually start to irritate the nerves and the pathways that go to different parts of the body.
Hmm. Hmm. And for African Americans experiencing these headaches 2 to 3 times a week, and then we say, oh, this is just normal, like my head is just hurting. Is that really normal? Or when does it get to a point where we say, hey, this actually needs to be checked out?
That's a great question. It actually needs to be checked out if it's going on for longer than about 15 days in a month. So we're talking about half the month, 2 weeks. And even though something is common like headaches, it doesn't necessarily mean it's normal. We shouldn't be experiencing headaches on a regular basis. If they're happening for more than 15 days within a month, we consider that chronic, and a person definitely needs to be checked out.
Hmm. And what are some daily habits that may be contributing to these headaches? If someone says, hey, I do have it more than half of the month, like I feel like I have a headache literally every other day, multiple times throughout the day? Is it posture? Is it hydration? Like, what can be contributing to why people experience these and other people don't?
Well, the most common headache that happens is caused by tension and stress. So stress is always the number one factor. It manifests in our bodies in specific ways that we talked about with tension and things of that nature, but also poor sleep. Poor sleep will lead to increased stress, increased tension in the body. So we have to make sure that our sleep is well, and also dehydration, as you mentioned. If the brain is not properly hydrated, the rest of the body is not properly hydrated, then headaches will just abound.
Hmm. Hmm. And 87% of migraine sufferers report seeing a chiropractor to treat their headache pain. What are some of the techniques that you're using to help these people?
Well, what we actually do is the area in the upper neck, a lot of tension and stress built up in the upper neck area. Those nerves, there are a lot of nerve pathways, especially in the upper neck area, that go to other areas of the brain, the head, the face, the ears, eyes, nose, and throat, which is why people experience headaches. So chiropractic, what we do is we focus on adjusting that upper neck area and adjusting that part of the spine and increasing the spinal biomechanics and the motion, which actually will take the tension away from that area, which will also lead to decreased stress response and then also less tension.
Hmm. Now, there are some concerns with some spinal manipulation, right? So how do you address those concerns?
Well, the good thing about this has been studied multiple times. Harvard had a study recently where they basically said there's actually no causation between a spinal manipulation of the neck and any kind of adverse events. However, there is risk involved, just like with any specific procedure. So if a person comes into my office, a patient comes in and they ask me, hey, is this something that we can do? We make sure we do a thorough evaluation, consultation. We take x-rays. We check all of their health history to make sure that there are not any limiting or risk factors involved in them getting those specific adjustments to help with that upper neck pain leading to stress and headaches.
And if you've had patients that come to you and they've done the manipulations and they've tried to do the hydration and changing of daily habits, when do you finally say, hey, we need to actually maybe look into a neurologist? Are there any signs and symptoms that point you to saying we need to go and escalate and think of other areas of intervention?
Absolutely. If a patient is not getting better after, an initial period of maybe 4 to 6 weeks, we would refer out to a neurologist just to make sure they're not experiencing any other type of situations, any syndromes, any type of diseases or underlying causes that may have not been addressed properly. Because we look at a lot of different things, but we are trained to know that, hey, this person needs to be referred out for a further neurological evaluation or orthopedic evaluation, because there are some people that do not respond to the chiropractic care. There's very few people, but if they don't respond to it, we know when to refer those people out to get some further studies done.
Mhm. And if someone is watching right now and they say, hey, Dr. Bolar, I have these chronic headaches. It's interfering with my personal life, my work life. I can't sleep at night. What are some 3 practical things that you would tell them to start to help them to treat themselves at home? And if not, how can they find you so that you can actually get some therapeutic measures on board?
Absolutely. The first thing I would tell them to do is watch their posture, watch how much time they're spending on their phone, their mobile devices, practice putting their ears over their shoulders so they can make sure that their posture is good. Second of all, I want them to make sure that they're going to sleep and sleeping properly in the bed, making sure they have a proper sleep position, there's proper temperature there, and make sure they're getting enough sleep. And then the third thing I would tell them to do is that they work at a desk or have an office type of job. I would tell them to get up and move around every hour. They have to make sure that their body is moving around so their circulation is good, the tension stays down or minimized, and that they can actually, address these issues that way.
Moving and sleeping. Well, Dr. Bolar, where can they find you? Is any social media site that they can go to if they need to actually have an adjustment? How can they find you?
They can find me at livingvitallife.com. That's livingvitallife.com. And they can also look me up at Vital Life Chiro. And they can schedule with us because we address these things each and every day.
Well, thank you so much for coming back again. And we will have you back again because we have further questions for you. So thank you, Dr. Bolar.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And coming up next, we're helping you recognize the signs of dementia and Alzheimer's and breaking down the difference between the two.
MAGA Republicans ended diversity programs, cut funding for Black students, and fired federal employees. And they won't stop there. Now, they've redrawn congressional maps so that they can rig the November elections. But we have the power to stop them. By voting yes for fair elections, we have the final say on who represents us in Congress. This is a temporary measure to restore fairness. They are not backing down, and neither can we. Make a plan to vote by April 21st and vote yes for fair elections.
Nearly 7 million people globally are living with Alzheimer's disease, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior. And among Black Americans, ages 70 and older, 21.3% are living with it. Joining me to discuss this epidemic is Dr. MaGee-Rodgers. She is Assistant Vice President and Trial Execution Services at Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation. Thank you, Dr. Rodgers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So what exactly is Alzheimer's disease?
Yes, that is a great question. Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. So when we look at dementia, dementia is an umbrella term for Alzheimer's. So there's different types of dementia, which is Alzheimer's. And another one I wanted to let everyone know is Lewy body disease. And we also have vascular dementia and frontotemporal dementia. So those are 4 common types of dementia, which is Alzheimer's equates for 60 to 80% of cases that we see.
And how do they differentiate from each other? Alzheimer's and Lewy body and frontal and vascular. How are they similar and different?
That's a good question. So as far as vascular, that is when we see reduced blood flow to the brain, often when we see in strokes, right? For Lewy body dementia, it's associated with abnormal protein deposits. So you may, it looks totally different from Alzheimer's, right? You may have a little bit more of different movement, right? And as far as frontotemporal dementia, it affects your behavior, your personality, and language. You may not even be able to speak anymore. We also, I just wanted to mention, we have mixed dementia, which is a combination of 2 or more. What we often see is Alzheimer's with vascular dementia. So I just want to make sure that everybody is, aware of those types of dementia that can be where they can receive a diagnosis of.
And do they carry different personalities, for lack of a better word? You sometimes see the associated, agitation or aggression with some forms of dementia. Is that across the board, or is one more particular than the other one?
There's some more particular than the other, but you do see agitation in Alzheimer's, you do. And there's actually studies out there that are looking on how to treat those symptoms. But you also see in frontotemporal dementia patients, a lot of different personality changes and agitation, as well as Lewy body. So it looks different, but you do have some sort of agitation across those different dementias.
And beyond age, what are the biggest risk factors for developing dementia of all types? Is it genetics? Is it cardiovascular health, lifestyle habits? What is it?
You hit the nail on the head. It's all of the above, right? Genetics does play a role. Our environment does play a role. We have actually seen some current studies that are looking at noise pollution and how that can play a role. Also, your diet is very important, right? What you eat. You are what you eat is what we say. So we also encourage people to look at the MIND diet. The MIND diet is actually for brain health, and it includes, green leafy vegetables, olive oil, fish, poultry, vegetables, fruit. So that plays a major role, right? And then what we want to just make sure you're aware of your surroundings and how social, right, you are, right? And then how much sleep you get. Sleep is a very big determinant of your cognitive health. So it's very important to get a lot of sleep.
Now, you mentioned something that really triggered my interest. You said noise noise pollution, right?
Yes.
Now, you see people walking around all the time with headphones on. You hear them on the plane, and you're like, hey, even though you have your headphones on, I can still hear everything you're listening to. Is that the type of noise that you're talking about? Is it just the loudness of it, or is it you're listening, it's a loud noise for prolonged periods of time?
A long noise for prolonged periods of time. So also where you live, like in city, like urban areas,
Right.
when we talk about, right, hearing ambulances, right, police, hearing outside noise, hearing cars at night, that type of thing too plays a role in noise pollution. But like you said, also just the everyday occurrence that we hear, prolonged, right? How loud is our earbuds? How loud is our music that we're listening to? Because that can affect our overall cognitive health.
And what are some of the signs, the early signs of dementia development, and how important is early diagnosis to actual treatment plans? Like, are there any treatment plans available?
There are some treatment plans available. We actually have several medications that are now FDA approved, but it's very important to have an early diagnosis in order to get right. Make sure that you qualify for those medications. Some of the symptoms that you want to look for is if it's affecting your daily life, right? If it's something that's really affecting how you navigate throughout the day, right? If your judgment, right? Your judgment, is that affected? Communication, language, right? If you can't remember, I like to give an example of, let's say you see a remote, right? And you just can't remember what that remote is for. What does it do, right? Those kind of things, right? You're driving, right? And you just forget how to get to your destination, right? Like, you've done it multiple times, you've done it before, but you forget all of a sudden on how to get there. So those are some of the symptoms you want to look out for. And it's always important, like we say, to also talk about these concerns and symptoms with your primary care physician.
And if you are that person that says, hey, you mentioned where the remote, I've done that earlier this week, or I was driving home and I had no clue how I ended up where I ended up. Are there any foods, vitamins, or anything that could potentially slow the process of this dementia getting more progressively worse?
Yeah, that's a great question. You just want to make sure that you do understand where your vitamin levels are. I know vitamin D is very important, plays a vital role. I know in the African American Black community, we tend to see lower vitamin D levels. So that's important that we have, you eat the foods that you need, right? Leafy vegetables, right? Drink milk, right? That type of thing, dairy, that's where you can get some of that vitamin D, and get plenty of sun, right? Sun, that helps with those vitamin D levels. There is still research out there about what you can eat. I know there's been some studies about the red grapes, how they can help with cognitive decline over time. But like I had mentioned, the MIND diet, just making sure you eat lean meat, like poultry, fish, green, leafy vegetables, nuts, olive oil. Those tend to help prevent or reduce the risk of dementia.
And is there one group or subgroup more likely to progress to dementia, whether that's race, gender, a region within our country? Does it tend to impact some more than others?
Yes, unfortunately, it does. It tends to affect the Black and African American community. Unfortunately, we are 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's when compared to Caucasians. And we are 35% less likely to receive a diagnosis. So unfortunately, we wait until it's too late to get to that diagnosis, right? And by 2060, it is expected that Alzheimer's will quadruple among African American and Black communities. Wow. So it's so important. And I also want to share that we're also looking at the role that Alzheimer's plays on perimenopause and menopause, because it does. There's some effects that we're seeing that it does affect women more, right? And we're looking at that perimenopause and menopause stage of what's going on there. Why are those differences? Because as you looking at those statistics, it affects Black women more than any other group in the United States.
And can you explain that perimenopausal period? is there something that's being shown in those groups of women that
Yeah.
says, hey, if this is happening when you're in the perimenopausal time frame, we may need to be more aggressive of getting you on early treatments so that you don't
Yeah.
have to force it. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things we're looking at is the role of estrogen, right? Because when you look at perimenopause, menopause, right, estrogen depletes, right? We really don't have as much as we did when we were younger. So
Mhm.
we're looking at the role that estrogen plays. And also, some people say they get brain fog, right, around perimenopause, right? They also have memory problems and concerns. And we're trying to see what is the connection between that, right, and cognitive decline. So, unfortunately, there is some studies out there, but we need to do a lot more just to understand those differences.
And if you are a woman who says, hey, I'm perimenopausal
Mhm.
and I'm forgetting everything, right? I have to
Yeah.
write notes. I can't remember what I'm saying in meetings. Should they go and proactively get on medications, or
Yeah.
is it just that they just have a higher risk?
They have a higher risk. So I would just again encourage them to see their primary care physician. Some primary care physicians and other physicians are able to do cognitive testing, but I also want to also just plug that clinical research is also another way you can get involved and learn more about your health. That's what we do, and that's how I support people's journey through this process. Is if you want to learn more, you can actually enroll in a trial. It doesn't have to be a trial that you get a study drug, but you can just learn more by completing an assessment that's going to ask you questions to see where your memory is. And you can use that as a baseline and get information that you can share with your primary care physician. But it's very important, just if you're interested, to consider clinical research.
And where could people find these clinical trials, right? Do they go online and just kind of Google it, or is there a specific website or a foundation that says, hey, you can tap into us and we'll give you all the resources that you need?
Yes. Clinicaltrials.gov, that lists pretty much every clinical trial that is taking place right now, and actually gives you a list of participating sites, so you can see if there is one near you. I can also share our website, which is Global ALZ platform.org, where we have a list of sites that are also participating in these clinical trials, and we have them listed by region. And you can also go there and see if there is a site participating near you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rodgers, so much for pointing us in the right direction. You said Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation is a place that people can go to get the resources that they need, because again, the importance of early awareness, the research, the medications, the treatment, the diagnosis, all that is very important for us to know about, so we can hopefully try to curb this progression in the Black community towards Alzheimer's, and figure out why is it that it's more likely to be within our family members. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And coming up next, caring for a loved one with dementia or Alzheimer's isn't easy. One caregiver turned advocate has some resources for you. So stay tuned.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
A decade of love, joy, and power. Black Voters Matter is 10 years old, and we are just getting started. This is love with a purpose. This is Black joy in motion. This is unstoppable power. Across campuses, neighborhoods, and back roads, let's go. We show up not just to vote, but to be seen, to be heard, to belong. We ride together, we organize together. We remind each other that our voices matter, because they always have. Black Voters Matter is about more than ballots. It's about housing and healthcare, clean water and living wages, education, reproductive freedom, and dignity. It's about turning pain into action, turning belief into movement, turning community into power. We don't wait to be invited. We bring the energy. We bring the love. We bring the people. Because when Black communities come together, we don't just survive, we thrive. This is how change happens. This is how history moves. We organize, we build, we win.
Now, our last segment broke down the medical aspects of Alzheimer's, a form of dementia. But did you know that more than 11 million family caregivers are providing unpaid dementia care, often without training, backup, or a roadmap? Well, joining me now is Dr. Macy P. Smith. She's a gerontologist, a caregiver, and an advocate, and the author of the Complete Dementia Caregiver's Guide, Expert Strategies for Dementia and Alzheimer's Care. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Smith.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Hilton.
Yeah, you know, this is, as we stated, this is a tremendous lift for our community. And caregiving is becoming a multi-generational strain, both emotionally, financially, and physically. What do caregivers typically experience from your viewpoint?
Well, first, Dr. Hilton, it's important that caregivers actually identify as a caregiver, because many do not. They're the daughter who ensures mom gets her meals, ensures dad gets his medications, transports grandma back and forth to church. You are a caregiver. So the first thing is to identify as such. And then there is no one place. There is no one-stop shop. When things occur, people tend to go right to the internet, but too much information is just as bad as not enough information. And so caregivers don't know where to go. They don't know what to ask. And what they find is that their livelihood is changing. The life that they once knew is no longer what they've known and what they, strived for, because many people don't strive to be a caregiver. They don't say, when I grow up, I want to go to South Carolina State University to become a caregiver. Sometimes, Dr. Hilton, it happens overnight. All of us, we're an injury, an illness, or an accident away from either being a caregiver or needing a caregiver.
Right. And you bring up this point of, I'm not sure if I'm prepared to take over that responsibility. And families often struggle, especially when we're talking about dementia and Alzheimer's, with behavioral changes of their parents or their elderly, right? Agitation, wandering off, confusion. What strategies do you suggest can be helpful to help manage those moments safely and calmly for that caregiver?
Every situation is different. Once you've met one person living with Alzheimer's or dementia, you've met that one person. Mm-hmm. Meet them in their mind. Meet them in the moments in their mind. With Alzheimer's, dementia, they tend to revert to previous life's patterns. So even though we're in 2026, they may be engaging in 1955 or early 2000s. Wherever they are, don't try to bring them back to your reality, because our reality is not always their reality. And so if they're talking about something that's not actually there, talk with them about what they're experiencing. For example, if they're looking for someone who's passed away and they're really actively searching for them, you may not want to say the person is dead. They've been dead for 15 years. You may want to ask them, what is it that you need? Can I help you with it? He or she is okay, but they're not here right now. What that does is it validates their needs. It shows them that they're worthy and that they're valued, and it offers a sense of comfort and offers a sense of reassurance. And that's what's important. You want to speak to the soul of the person, not to the heart of the disease.
Oh, speaking to the soul of the person and not the heart of the disease. In thinking of that, to speak to that soul, to take care of that person, it costs, hundreds of thousands of dollars for some people, at least hundreds of dollars every month to help feed, clothe, protect them. And many of these caregivers are paying that out of pocket. So when a loved one is first diagnosed, what do you suggest that family member do or that caregiver do to seek legal financial assistance to take care of that loved one?
Well, the first thing I would say is get my book, The Complete Dementia Caregiver's Guide, because I take you from A to Z and back to double A, double B. But if someone is diagnosed with dementia, the very first thing I want the family to ask the doctor is, what type of dementia is it? Dr. Hilton, there are over 100 causes or 100 types of dementia, including the treatable types. And we think about the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. I want to, bring this out too, if it hasn't already been stated. Dementia is not the actual disease. Dementia is the symptom of the disease. Alzheimer's is the most common cause, and you can think of it as a cough. Your cough is a symptom. You go to the doctor, and the doctor is going to diagnose what's causing the cough: upper respiratory infection, GERD, indigestion. So you want to figure out what's causing dementia. And once the doctor rules out all treatable causes, such as a urinary tract infection, medication side effects, lack of sleep, depression, high blood pressure, then family members need to meet with their team. And I'm talking about their family, biological family, and also logical families. Because Dr. Hilton, our families are a lot smaller these days. We don't have 10, 12, 20 children to be able to compartmentalize and divide up the responsibilities, but get together with everyone who may have a part in providing care for that loved one and divvy up the responsibilities. You also want to invest in a certified elder attorney. The certified elder attorney will help manage the financial assets to determine what the person can afford and what they cannot afford. Medicare does not pay for non-medical long-term services and support. So someone to come into the home to provide non-medical care, the bathing, the dressing, the cleaning, that comes out of pocket. Family caregivers are the backbones to the long-term care system. And if we do not get support for family caregivers sooner than later, the system is going to break their backs. That is full stop. On average, the cost of non-medical care can range anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 a month. And we're talking about on average over $100,000 from in-home care to assisted living. And so education first is key to determine what your Medicare covers and what it doesn't. And then just like you plan for your children's college fund, you also want to plan, and I'm talking to us, Gen Xers, Gen Zs, you also want to plan for your long-term care as well. But for those who are already over 65, they're in the throes of it, seek the assistance of a certified elder attorney and do some Medicaid planning. Unfortunately, in America, you have to go broke in order to be able to afford long-term services and supports, because Medicaid would cover it.
And if you're in that in between and you say, hey, I don't qualify for Medicaid, what are some resources that they can identify to help take care of that family member?
I love that question. I call those individuals the gap generation caregivers. And so those caregivers are typically sandwich generation caregivers, average 49, 50 years of age, caring for an older adult loved one, a parent, and also caring for their own family and still working. And so the area agency on aging, the local area agency on aging, they have vouchers that can help with respite care. That's where someone comes in to sit and care for your loved one while you go to work or take a break because you have to practice self-care. There's also now the Medicare Guide Program, GUIDE, for those who have traditional Medicare, not Medicare Advantage, but traditional Medicare. Medicare is now providing financial support for in-home care. They're providing education and resources to help family members that bear the brunt of the responsibility, how to train them and educate them on how to manage the dementia care at home, non-prescription. Also, they provide a geriatric care manager like myself to help families and seniors better understand the long-term care system, get services in place, and to better understand what to expect from these services. Also, you want to tap into your local universities. Typically, universities, their social work program, their nursing programs, their public health programs, they may have grants. Many of them do have grants to help with dementia care, better understanding Alzheimer's care, and mild cognitive impairment. And they typically have grants to whereas they may provide funding for in-home care, but also education, because education is so vitally important. I'm from a small town in South Carolina called North South Carolina, and just about everybody who was aging had dementia, but they really didn't. They were just aging, and they were dealing with maybe mild cognitive impairment or age-associated memory loss. And so those are the things that we need to be mindful of. There is now a treatment for early stages of Alzheimer's disease. Early onset is something different, but you have to catch it in the early stages. So education is vitally important. If you recognize the signs in the early stages, you could have access to the new treatments to not cure the disease, but it can slow down the progression of Alzheimer's disease, thereby affording the senior and the family caregivers a longer quality of life and their independence.
And you mentioned something so important, early detection, right? And
early detection is key.
Right. And if you're someone with dementia, of course, you may not see those early signs. So what are some of the things that family members can say? Hey, if you're seeing these signs and symptoms, you may need to take your loved one in to actually get a diagnosis.
So I'll say the person that's experiencing it, Dr. Hilton, they actually have been experiencing it anywhere from 15 to 20 years before anybody even notices it. So they typically hide what they can't remember and what they're experiencing, because the last thing any of us want to lose is our mind. So we try to, justify why we're forgetting certain things. But Alzheimer's and progressive types of dementia is much more than memory loss and forgetfulness. When the forgetfulness begins to impair a person's life, meaning I might forget your name, but I remember who you are. I remember where I met you, and we can have a meaningful conversation. It's going to roll off my back. It's when that forgetfulness causes emotional trauma. And when I say emotional trauma, someone may be getting very upset because they can't find a pin top. And you're saying to yourself, why are they getting so upset because they can't find a pin top? It's just a pin top. It's probably because they have been experiencing it years before and they can't fix it. And so now, once they, maybe they've forgotten where they parked their car in the Target parking lot, or rather the Walmart parking lot, and they find their car, they crank their car up, but now they're getting lost getting home. We've all forgotten where we parked our car, but we've lived in this house for 25, 30 years. We're going to remember how to get home. But now, since the person can't remember how to do something routine that they've always been able to do, something is happening. But I don't want you to go directly to dementia. I want you to work with the doctor to figure out what's causing this memory loss, this forgetfulness, this inability to make decisions about things that you've always been able to accomplish. So it has to impair the person's day-to-day. And again, everybody is different. So you got to know what's routine for that person. And whatever's routine for that person, and now it's becoming much more challenging by the day, by the weeks, by the month, then something is definitely going on.
Well, I know there's many people that's listening right now saying, hey, there is something definitely going wrong. And Dr. Smith, we thank you for coming to shed light on this such important topic. You mentioned the Complete Caregiver's Guide, your book, correct?
Yes.
Where can people buy this book if they need resources to point them in the right direction?
So the book is available in audio format, digital format, paperback, and also hardcover. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and Walmart, and it's also available at other bookstores. So if you Google it, I'm sure you'll be able to find it.
The Complete Caregiver's Guide by Dr. Smith. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And coming up next, my prescription of the week.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
Why does it feel like we're going backward? Voting rights under attack, schools stripped of funding, Black history erased. This is the Trump MAGA agenda. They want to take us back. They are redrawing congressional lines in states across the country, deciding who gets power and who gets silenced. We see what this is, a power grab. Virginians won't be fooled. Show up, vote, take back our power. It's a temporary measure that gives the people, not politicians, the final say. Vote yes by April 21st.
Now let's talk about something we often take for granted until it starts to change: our brain health. Your brain controls everything: your memory, your mood, your focus, your movement, even how your heart and lungs function. And just like the rest of your body, your brain needs care and maintenance to stay healthy over time. The reality is that the brain health is built daily. It's not something we start thinking about at 70. It's shaped by what we do in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And research is very clear about the biggest influences. Sleep is one of them. When you sleep, your brain actually clears waste products and toxins that build up during the day. Poor sleep over time has been linked to memory problems and increased risk of dementia. Movement is another. Regular physical activity increases blood flow to the brain and stimulates the release of chemicals that help brain cells grow and communicate. Nutrition matters too. Diets rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, fish, and healthy fats, like those found in the Mediterranean-style diets, are associated with better cognitive function and lower risk of neurodegenerative disease. And then there's stress. Chronic stress keeps your brain in constant fight or flight mode, raising cortisol levels that can affect memory, mood, and concentration if left unchecked. But brain health isn't just physical, it's social and mental as well. Staying connected with people, continuing to learn new things, and challenging your mind all help strengthen these neural pathways. Think of it this way: your brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, protect it, and fuel it, well, the stronger it stays. So prioritize sleep, move your body, eat foods that nourish your brain, manage stress, stay curious. Because protecting your brain isn't just about preventing disease, it's about preserving the life you actually want to live. And that, my friends, is my prescription of the week. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week on Second Opinion.